Today I'm going to be brewing my American Amber. Right now I got the strike water coming up to temperature in the hot liquor tank here. I usually go over and let it come back a little, but I did pump a couple gallons of the hot water into the mash tun so that it can have time to equilibrate, so I don't get so much temperature loss when I do mash in. I've also got a former chiller in there that I'm now using as my kind of makeshift HERMS system. You'll see that in a minute. We're right at 164, so we're gonna put some water into the mash tun here. We got about 16 pounds of grain, so I'm gonna put about 5.5 gallons of water in there. Everything's open. Get going. While this is filling, I'm going to put a tablespoon of pH stabilizer in there. Good stuff. We reached our volume, so in goes the grain. We're mashed in. It's a little thin, but that's because I'm taking into consideration the amount of wort that I'm going to be recirculating through my HERMS system. So everything's broken up nicely. We will put our thermometer in there. Cover it up, wait a few minutes, and then get our first reading. Alright, we've been mashing about 6.5, 7 minutes now. I've topped off the hot liquor tank, and I've reversed the pump so that rather than pumping into the mash tun, it's now going to be pumping out of the mash tun through the heat exchanger, and then eventually back into the mash tun. But first let's check and see what the temperature of our mash is. And right on it, exactly where we want to be. So I'm going to wait until the hot liquor tank comes back up to about our mash temperature, 154. Right now it's hanging out at 146. No rush. I mean, I'm using a cooler, so I could probably hold our mash temperature without doing any sort of recirculation, but the recirculation is going to really ensure that I maintain that temperature, as well as it'll help clarify the wort. The grain bed's going to act as a filter when it pulls the wort from underneath and puts it back on top. End up getting a clear beer. Alright, we've been mashing about 15 minutes now, and I have the recirculation of the wort going on. You can see that we're pumping wort from the bottom of the mash tun through the pump, up through the heat exchanger, which is hanging out inside the hot liquor tank. The water in there, it's about 155, 156, just slightly above our mashing temperature. It's being recirculated to the top of our mash tun. You can see, I don't know if you can see that ring right there, that's actually a plastic plate. I'm not recirculating directly onto the grain bed. I'm wanting to leave it as undisturbed as possible. That plate's kind of acting as a diffuser to keep the grain bed safe. Let's check out our mash temperature. Right where we want to be, 154. So this recirculation is doing a number of things. It's filtering the wort, so we're going to have a lot clearer of a product. The temperature is going to be a lot more consistent throughout the mash tun, top, bottom, left, right, wherever. It's all going to be the same temperature. And I can actually control the mash temperature by raising the temperature of the hot liquor tank. So at mash out, I'll probably add some heat to this and bring my mash up to 170 before I sparge. Alright, so we just reached our 1 hour mark, so it's time to add some heat, get up to our sparge temperature, 170. Just to check this out real quick. I don't know if a iPhone camera picks that up very well, but we've got some pretty clear wort there from all that recirculation. And we're still right at our 154, exactly where we were aiming to be this entire hour. So let's add some heat to this guy. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes now, and we are dead on 170. See what the temperature of the mash is doing. Coming up on 160, so we'll wait a couple more minutes. I'll cut back the heat and let the mash come up to temperature, and then we'll start sparging. The mash was brought up to 170 degrees. What I did now was I took the hose that was coming out of the mash tun and simply just moved it down to the hot liquor tank, and now it's flushing all the wort out of the heat exchange system. Just easy way of cleaning it up. And we are sparging. See, I didn't move any of the hoses here, other than just taking the one from the mash tun and moving it to the hot liquor tank. And we are filling our boil kettle. The recipe that I came up with calls for a final boil volume of 7.5 gallons, and knowing my system, I've got to have 9.8 gallons pre-boil, which means I'm coming up to this ridge right there. That's right at 9.8 gallons. And then I will add heat, wait for the hot break, pull back the heat a little, and boil for 90 minutes. We reached our pre-boil volume of 9.8-ish gallons, and now we've added heat. We're waiting for it to come to a boil.